Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central here on News Central on a Wednesday morning. And we are back with the latest story in Nigeria, or better still, stories. I had to do that intentionally to say story because there's one big story that's indeed making the rounds. And of course, it's got to do with the Senate, where we've seen what we haven't seen in a long time, back and forth, here, not there, fingers being pointed. It started off a few weeks ago when someone said, you were there, I was not there. No, you were there. No, I was not there. And then it has all of a sudden snowballed, as it were, into something that is even much more surprising to Nigerians, where conversations have indeed led to different reactions. By the way, I'm Joe Hanson saying good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central.
And I am Osarogie Ogbonmwan. As always, we have 2 hours to share with you the biggest conversations happening in politics and current affairs here in Nigeria, and of course, amongst other things, also bits and pieces in other parts of the continent. But of course, the biggest conversation this morning is once again the Nigerian National Assembly. The Senate has currently been thrown into another couple of days of chaos with the suspension, of course, of Senator Ningi after accusations of 3.7 trillion naira being added to the 2024 budget. There's, of course, been numerous reactions to this. He has been suspended for 3 months. Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, of course, was in the session yesterday. There was, of course, many people also sharing their thoughts. But another thing that was also exposed yesterday was a senator also saying that some ranking senators got 500 million naira each, while others maybe got less, or some of them got more, and he didn't get anything. So from some of the things that were mentioned yesterday, even from Senator Ningi himself, it sounded a lot like some of those complaints were coming from, a place, they sounded like they were only complaining because they didn't receive their own share of, whatever was going on in the National Assembly with Nigeria's money. Senator Ningi also, remember that as part of his speech yesterday where he was saying, you know what I earn every month, I don't know what you earn every month. He also mentioned the time where senators all got, vehicles, as part of the budget, but he didn't receive any car and stuff like that. So it sort of sounded like most of them who complained yesterday were only complaining because they didn't receive their own fair share of whatever, mismanagement of funds may have happened in the Senate. Well, another thing is, that I think I should mention is, it may have been better if Senator Ningi was able to share, clear-cut evidence that 3.7 trillion naira was added to the budget. That budget padding actually happened. Because what has happened now is that it all sounds like gossip. It all sounds like rumors. He's not been able to convince Nigerians, including the people who suspended him, because if he had clear-cut evidence that, yes, these are the budget figures, this is what I'm seeing here, that there was actually a budget pad of 3.7 trillion naira, according to what the news carried, because, he argued that that's not what, he really said and all of that. But the point is, he's not been able to prove, beyond reasonable doubt that, yes, there was, even if it's not a law court, but at least share with us, why you think that 3.7 trillion naira was added to the budget. It can't just be word of mouth. It can't just be this is what I heard or this is what I feel. And so he was eventually suspended yesterday. I saw Senator Shehu, or former Senator Shehu Sani, in a tweet yesterday, sharing what happens when you're suspended. You're not allowed to be anywhere near the National Assembly. Your allowances and salaries are stopped for the 3-month period. Your couple of other things, of course, are also withheld from you. He also made mention that that's one of the reasons that most people in National Assembly never speak out, including the lead opposition figures. In fact, there's almost no opposition in the National Assembly because they fear, that they will be suspended. And that, I'm sure, is for those people who are saying, we are the Labour Party, members. Even if every single person in the National Assembly, if they sense any wrongdoing, regardless of what party that you're from, should, be encouraged to speak out. But Senator Shehu Sani was basically saying that, when these things happen, it shows the reason why most senators stay silent when they notice that there's maybe mismanagement, there's stealing of Nigeria's money, there's padding of the budget and all of that, happening. So it's a complete mess, and from what I've seen in the last 48 hours, it's a reminder that in Nigeria, right, you do not say things like this is the worst. Or no, you do not say things like this. Nobody would ever be worse than this. Because the Nigerian system, Nigeria's history would always tell you, hold my glass. One person is coming that would be worse than the one, they're currently experiencing. And I remember, I'm saying this because I remember that from 1999, we've seen times when the National Assembly has been accused of so much. And we'll say, oh, this is the worst National Assembly we've ever had. This is the most, rubber stamp National Assembly we've ever had. We've said that thing so many times, but every new, session, the next one takes over and tells you that they can be worse than the previous one.
And that's
so
what
we said it during Bukola Saraki's time. We said it during Ahmad Lawan's time. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, has not been Senate President for up to a year. But the drama that has occurred, it's embarrassing.
It's up to 4 years. So many. The concept of trying to ensure that the citizenry or the citizens can put their trust in you is one concept that I would say it's really hard to understand at this juncture, because every single Nigerian is wondering what is really going on. And like they say, there's no smoke without fire.
Yes.
So obviously, it seems like it was a bittersweet conversation yesterday, where it was bitter for those who wanted to come out and open the can of worms. It was sweet for those who were able to shut them up as soon as possible. And that's exactly what we saw yesterday, where Ningi was, kept it at his place, Senator Ningi. And of course, Jaribe did come out and say, listen, you all got 500 million. That's like more of a repetition of what we saw a few weeks ago, where Senator Ndume said, I was not there. I was not there. It was a case of, oh, you were there. I was not there. So we're starting to see fingers being pointed at different directions. We've seen people, reject such accusations, exonerating themselves at every single point in time. But there's one thing that surprises a lot of Nigerians. I mean, while all of this was going on, if you followed, aside from the social media space, you spoke to a few people, a few calls here and there, people are wondering, where is the EFCC in this case? What is really going on? Because if you say you want to fight the, in quotes, corruption, there you go. There you go. That's where you should go to. Start from there. They've given you pontais already. They've told you, listen, these things are going on earth, and start digging. But then again, is the EFCC independent? Anyway, Dashin joins us this morning as well here on Breakfast Central. Good morning to you, Dashin. I'm sure you have been listening to our conversations, and how did that strike you the first time, especially when you saw this entire drama play out? What came to your mind?
Well, you guys have actually said quite a lot, and from what I know about Senator Ningi, he's actually been one of the most outspoken senators that I actually know. And so many questions have been asked, and one really wonders, immediately he came out to talk about, the budget padding, and he did state that even Bayo Ononuga, said that there was an addition of 1.2 trillion naira in the budget, and nobody actually said anything about it. Instead, they came out to, ask for his his suspension. He actually resigned from the northern whatever. But then, they asked for his suspension, and everybody was, was okay with that. Nobody asked questions. And so far from what we know, the Senate president hasn't come out to, deny or accept the claim of budget pardon. And just like Osarogie had actually said, from 1999, it's been, one issue after the other when it comes to the Senate. And this is not the first time that we're hearing about, the budget has been padded with, so amount of money and all that. But something needs to be done. There needs to be an investigation done to find out if truly what Senator Ningi said is the truth, and, if there's a solution to it.
So let me take us on this very quickly, just a brief course in this entire conversation, and then we can now start, mapping our dots very quickly, especially for our viewers. So, accusation comes in over the weekend, right? That there has been budget padding. The Senate responds and says, I beg your pardon, the presidency responds and says there is no such, okay? Minutes later, the presidency responds again with a detailed press release. In that press release, the presidency now earmarks or underlines a certain statement, which goes this way, that if there was any addition, they even single-handedly brought out the figure 1.3 trillion as an addition, that it will come from the Senate and not from the presidency. Now, let's connect it together. That means maybe the presidency also knows that there was an addition and they knew the figure.
Yeah.
So indirectly, they are saying it was not 3.2 or 3.5 trillion, whichever way you want to look at it. It wasn't just 3 trillion, but it was 1 point something, and it came from the Senate. And now, Ningi, in other words, can be held high or focused on that he has indeed brought out a salient point, and it has led to this statement. However, if you still connect the dot to what happened yesterday, in other words, it was like, you know what, even if there is any addition, just shush, shh, don't say anything. You're suspended.
It feels like, business as usual. This is normal, with every National Assembly. The Senate always does this. Of course, the House of Reps, also, plays along. It doesn't sound like anything new, to either of them. And
exactly. So why go ahead to suspend him? Why not just, tell him, shut him down and just, let bygones be bygones? I mean, why not just keep quiet about it?
Should it really be so? Or don't you think that there should even be a recess that, listen, this is a major issue. The country is going through, the country is bleeding. There's a lot going on. Because of this issue, the entire House now needs to focus on this. Can we revisit the budget? Let's bring in the experts. Let's now analyze again before we begin. Give ultimatum. Let's have timelines.
Exactly.
Ningi, you've made this allegation. We're not going to suspend you yet. We're going to assign you to a team. They're going to work with you. However, if we find out that you are culpable in terms of you either, in quotes, maybe lied or tried to misinform the Nigerian public and the Senate, and of course every other person, then you shouldn't be suspended.
But Joe, where's the Senate president in all of this? Because there's been two accusations: one of the budget padding, and secondly of the 500 million naira that was unevenly dispersed to constituents.
So Jaribe's mic go off.
Let me just we need to go. There's obviously so much that is going on. I agree with Joe. It was too hasty to suspend Senator Ningi. There should have been proper investigation, at least proper questioning first. I feel like Senator Ningi should have done better with proving these allegations if they are true. But of course, or at least be clear on what exactly he's accusing them of. The Senate president, of course, has a lot of questions that need to be answered. But I just want to quickly also remind us that we're having these conversations, while there's also stories in the news that the student loan has been suspended. The government can't, at this point, fund student loan, whereas there's 500 million naira going to each senator. And also, we're having these conversations. I said it yesterday that there's nothing that should be bigger than rescuing these almost 300 people that have been kidnapped in Nigeria. In the last 48 hours, in the last 24 hours, nobody has remembered that there are still 300 Nigerians in captivity being held by bandits or terrorists or whichever one you call them. Nobody has remembered those people in the last 24 hours. What our focus has been on is on allegations from Senator Ningi and his suspension, and of course the mess in the National Assembly. 300 Nigerians are still being kept. I'm just painting a picture of how much of a mess, we currently are in. That we really just go day by day, every single day. Tomorrow, there might be a bigger story. And we just forget about the ones from yesterday and keep it moving like that. It's traumatizing, at this point, just having to deal with these things and hear these stories and just see the reality of where you are in Nigeria and see the people who are meant to be leading the country forward being so deep in the mess. It's almost a reminder that you're almost, heading nowhere. But anyway, Dashin, we'll see you in a bit. Let's share with our viewers this morning what our top stories are on Breakfast Central. Budget padding, Senate suspends Senator Ningi for 3 months.
Also still on budget padding, all of us are culpable, Senator Jerigbe says, in line with the recent happenings as well.
Hoodlums allegedly set popular Wuse market ablaze. We'll be looking at that this morning. And also, Minister of Power tasks electricity agencies as they strive to improve on power supply in Nigeria. We also will be taking you through the newspapers this morning and sharing with you the front pages and of course, what major stories are making headlines. But first, breakfast headlines.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. And let's begin by telling you that Nigeria's Senate has suspended fellow lawmaker Abdul Ningi for 3 months over claims made by the lawmaker that about 3.7 trillion naira was inserted into the nation's 2024 budget. This followed a heated debate on the floor of the Senate, where some lawmakers say Ningi had brought the image of the Senate to disrepute following his allegations against the upper legislative chamber.
Motion has been moved by an amendment has been offered by distinguished Senator Maidoki and seconded by distinguished Senator Sani Musa that he be suspended for only 3 months from the Senate. Those in support of the suspension for 3 months say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
In the meantime, Senator Abdul Ningi has resigned his position as chairman of the Northern Senators Forum following his 3-month suspension over his claim that the 2024 budget was padded to the tune of 3.7 trillion naira. Ningi, a member of the People's Democratic Party, is the chairman, Senate Committee on Population, and represents Bauchi Central. And let's also tell you that the President, Bola Tinubu, has officially appointed Dr. Dayo Moberola as the Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. President Tinubu expressed confidence in Dr. Dayo's ability to lead NIMASA effectively, emphasizing the importance of achieving the agency's mandate in maritime safety administration, marine pollution prevention, and other key areas. Kaduna-based Muslim cleric Sheikh Ahmed Gumi has offered to engage in dialogue with the bandits responsible for the abduction of approximately 287 school children from Kuriga Government Secondary School and LEA Primary Schools in the Chikun local government area of the state. Gumi's statement comes as a plea to President Bola Tinubu to grant him the opportunity to negotiate the release of the abducted children. Now let's head to South Africa, where the electoral body has fired an official it accuses of leaking the electoral candidate lists of 2 major political parties. Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission of South Africa, Sai Mamabolo, says investigations found that the employee downloaded the candidate lists of several political parties. Now, state-owned broadcaster says 4 people have died and 1 person has been injured as Storm Filippo hit southern Mozambique's Inhambane province. Now, Storm Filippo continues to batter the province while intermittent rain and gusty winds. Its effects are already being felt in the capital Maputo and the area around it. Now we'll move to East Africa, where Kenya has decided to halt its plans to dispatch police officers to Haiti as part of a United Nations-backed multinational mission. This is according to the Principal Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Corey Singoe, who cited the recent resignation of Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry amidst escalating violence and lawlessness across the nation as the primary reason behind Kenya's decision. And that's it on Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. It's back to you, Osarogie and Joe.
Thank you so much, Darshan, and thank you for the stories, most importantly, all the news there. I think we've also touched on some of the stories earlier on in a conversation that we know will not stop and will continue. But then again, we'll get to see you at 9 a.m., of course, with the latest updates.
Thank you, guys.
All right. You're still watching Breakfast Central on News Central. Let's go for that quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you our top stories. We did hear that there was fire in Wuse Market, and you also got that also in news. But when we come back, we'll take you into the details. You're watching Breakfast Central here on News Central. Let's start off in the Federal Capital Territory. A section of Abuja's popular trading zone, Wuse Market, was yesterday set on fire following the reported killing of a criminal suspect by a police officer attached to the mobile court sitting within the market. Although there has been conflicting accounts on the identity of the officer involved, however, some angry traders along with hoodlums were said to have been displeased that the suspect was convicted by a mobile court but attempted to escape from lawful custody was gunned down. The situation led to a commotion in the area as people ran for safety, with many injured in the process.
This issue of tear gas in the market is wrong. This tear gas, they have thrown this I have seen it for the first time. They throw the one is back of here in a woman's shop. The thing land on top of the roof, burst the roof, and people were inside the shop as if it were a bomb. Now this is the second one now, and this one now. See, look at how the damage is. A lot of billions has been wasted.
What really happened is a young guy that is hawking pouch inside the market. So he went and pissed somewhere, and the task force hold him captive. And before you know it, they took him to the police station. Then today is the day that they normally took people to the court. So the guy now have the opportunity and escape. And while running, they now shoot the policeman now shoot the guy.
If these people have come, this market would have been. Nobody would have expected what would have happened. So let's give kudos to them. Julius Berger, FCT firefighter, they did a wonderful work. And that is why they were able to context it. Not because I'm the lucky one, but they did a wonderful work.
Those market boys, they are hustling inside market. So as the hustle now, that starts for this side the market. So they used to stop all those guys that are hustling. So as the police come now, they task force come order police to shoot one guy inside market, the guy that are hustling. They now shoot the guy flat. As they shoot the guy flat, that is where riot starts. That is where riot starts. As riot starts, those police inside market, they came. They started shooting tear gas. And then, because of the tear gas, now tear gas from up enter the roof.
I went to say to eat. On my way back, my boy called me that there's problem in the market, that task force people had issue with some guys that hustle and they shot someone. The next thing, another person called me that my shop is on fire. Over 30 minutes, I was outside begging the policemen to allow me have access to the market so that I can at least see if I can open my shop to bring out some things. Over 30 to 40 minutes, they didn't give me access.
Sad situation. A lot of, stories, conflicting stories, neither here nor there. But of course, here on News Central, we can categorically tell you that our man is on ground this morning. And if big time permits, of course, I'm trying to talk to the right people. If we cannot lay our hands on the right persons to talk to this hour, you can be certain that we will be doing that in the next hour, or better still, at the 9 a.m. news. But that's the story that many people have been talking about concerning the inferno right there in Wuse Market. It's a very popular market, by the way, Osarogie. And then I think it's a case of not handling the situation properly. It's a mismanagement situation. That's what I think has led to this fracas. And then, of course, the fire incident as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out who the task force exactly is. The people who, some of the people that were, interviewed said were chasing someone. Who exactly are the task force? Are they the task force for the market? or for Wuse area, are they members of the police force? I'm not sure who they are exactly. But of course, my question is, who takes the blame for this? Because this isn't a fire that was caused by an electrical fault. At least from what they are saying, there's maybe it's a tear gas that was fired or something else that was fired that led to this very, very sad incident. So who then takes the blame for this incident? And it also is a good time to question, and this is something that I've always spoken about with regards the safety requirements for building these markets across Nigeria. How many of them have adequate safety infrastructure put in place for fire? How many of these markets have fire extinguishers, and of course, easy access for fire trucks in case of situations like this? These are times when we should always, these are moments where we should put all those things into consideration. It happened many times in the Southeast and of course here in Lagos also, that made us question, okay, if there's a fire in any market in Lagos State, what is the time frame between the departure of the fire truck and arrival at the market and its ability to assess, the deepest parts of the market to put out the fire, and, save the market from completely being burned down? Those are things that we've never really been able to answer or make adjustments with. And it's not just in the markets, even in estates, residential areas, in all the companies here in Lagos and in all across the country. These moments should be teachable moments where people learn from. Will Wuse Market make adjustments now? Would they ensure that every store has a very functional fire extinguisher? Would they make adjustments and ensure that there's adequate fire entry routes for fire trucks? Would they ensure that there's a fire hydrant that is working? But these are things that you don't necessarily find in an environment or in a country where you don't have pipe-borne water, steady flow of pipe-borne water. It's many of all these things that you just get to see. Because if you don't have water, what is the fire truck going to use, or the fire hydrant going to use? So it's unfortunate that this has happened. We hope that there's going to be a proper investigation into what led to that fire, and of course into the death of that Nigerian, and whoever needs to be punished will be punished. We hope. That's what we can say. We hope. All right. Nigeria's Minister of Power has tasked operators in Nigeria's energy sector to step up their game and live up to the expectations of Nigerians. These, of course, as they continue to, battle to lift up and, of course, improve on the generation of power, and, of course, to move Nigeria up to 4,000 megawatts power generation across the country. We, of course, will share that story with you after this very short break. Stay with us.
The meeting was summoned by the Minister of Power. In attendance were heads of power agencies and other stakeholders in the sector.
This meeting is called to address the issues, for me to get updates from the agencies on more like a situation report for what is happening.
The minister expressed worry over the current state of the nation's power sector, saying agencies saddled with the responsibility of providing electricity to citizens have not lived up to their responsibilities.
It's not going to be business as usual. Every operator in the sector needs to raise their game. We need to do what we need to do to get this sector to the desired level. Nigerians reserve the right to ask for governance from people that have been elected into power. They reserve the right to ask for improvement in service. People cannot be paying for darkness. What they should be paying for is light, and there should be consistent improvement in supply on a daily basis.
While the heads of the agencies promised to improve the current state of electricity supply, some blame the current situation to vandalism of equipment by hoodlums. The minister also assured citizens of improving the situation.
Our light in Abuja has been vandalized on Sunday morning. We find out it has been vandalized, but I'm assuring you that the supply in Abuja is not affected because we have a second line. We have it for redundancy, and now we're using the second line to supply Abuja.
And I know that we've all been working day and night to ensure that we reverse this situation. And I am confident that very soon this situation will be fully arrested.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria says that it is working to improve transmission of electricity around the country from 4,000 megawatts to 6,000 megawatts. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Oh, well, and I think it's probably also important to, that we ask what the expectations are when, when we have new ministers. What does the Nigerian Minister of Power believe, are his responsibilities? What does he believe that he needs to deliver in the next 4 years? Because I remember that, we had Minister of Power in the previous administration. Power generation did not improve. Not much improved generally with regards to electricity generation and supply. So when they appoint these ministers of power and they sit there for 4 years, what do they know is the expectation that has been placed in their hands? What do they know that they need to deliver in the 4-year, period that they're there? Because I believe a lot of them just go there and expect that, we just need to maintain status quo, ensure that the power grid doesn't collapse too many times so it's not embarrassing on the government. But there is no target, there's no, my ministry must achieve 10,000 megawatts of electricity. There's no, my ministry must achieve, 20,000 megawatts of electricity in 2 years. There's nothing like that. We just go there and maintain status quo. And then after 4 years, we call ourselves former Minister of Power. So does the current minister understand what is expected of him? And is he interested, in improving and delivering, moving Nigeria from 4,000 to maybe 7,000? Can we maybe? Now, of course, it's time for Which Way Nigeria, and I'm going to be sharing with you excerpts, of course, screenshots from a message that I came across that is going to be the base for our Which Way Nigeria today. It's from a guy called Ogbonmwan, and it says here, I supported the APC, but I can't deny the party ruined the economy. There's nothing to debate. The picture is now clear. The economy is in shambles. This country that had an economic recovery and growth program in 2016 that planned total import substitution of rice and grains by 2020 is now accepting handouts of wheat from war-torn Ukraine. I still don't like the PDP, he goes on to say. And of course, shares more, about his thoughts. But I can't deny the damage the APC has caused. To deny the abject failure to secure and unite the country is to deceive oneself. The party needs to rethink. The lies, propaganda, and pomposity should give way to some remorse and clear-eyed sobriety. It's been 9 years, and despite the rails and some bridges, we are still in the dark. They now seem like wasted years. Youths are fleeing abroad. Hunger rules the land. Crime is rampant. Truth is scarce. We used to talk about the 16 years of the PDP. Of course, everyone remembers that. We used to talk about the 16 years of PDP and describe them as the locust years. But now, we can't even own up that the APC has been around for 9 years. This country needs fundamental changes. We should not forget self-indulgent motor park banter and gutter snipping. This country needs unity and a transformational leadership. He, ends, it there. And of course, that becomes the basis for Which Way Nigeria today. And it felt like a teachable moment, after reading that, to say that it's not unpatriotic to accept and say it out loud that your political party, or whichever political party, the APC government in question currently, ruined Nigeria's economy. It's not illegal to say that after years of being a strong supporter of the APC government, you have finally decided to be open about your views. And in your opinion, they actually have made your country 100 times worse than you ever imagined. They say whenever a man wakes up is his morning. So if after 9 years of being asleep, a person finally opens their eyes, it stretches, yawns, and gets out of bed, it's okay to say good morning to him or her. Now, the reason this is important is because we unfortunately have found ourselves in a place where Nigerians have taken allegiance to political parties like it's a cult. And no matter how disgraceful that party is, the cult allegiance makes it so hard for people to remember that it's their nation that is suffering the failures of that party, nobody else. And that no matter how loyal you are to a political party, you are the one who will suffer the consequences of the party's actions, not the politicians. Not those currently, of course, who are sharing 500 million naira, like we heard in the Senate. Not those who are accusing each other of adding 3.7 trillion naira to the budget. Not those in power. Those people would almost never lose their positions for failure. But you, on the other hand, will bear the consequences of their failure. There's no Ogbonmwan that you are loyal to who will save you entirely from the consequences of not speaking truth to his political party. Your loyalty should always be to your family, yourself, and to your country, not to some politician or to some political party, so that you will always be honorable enough to tell them when they get it wrong. And so again, I say to all of those who are still, they still act like they took a blood oath with some political party. It's actually okay, and it's not illegal, it's not unpatriotic to say it with your chest that my party failed, and failed woefully. And they're the reason I'm suffering today along with the other 200 million people. You're not a slave. You're a human being with rights and a vote and a voice. So don't be ashamed to be honest publicly about how your party ruined your country. Don't fear that you may have, maybe an epileptic seizure and collapse. If you say the truth, that the party that you support and you maybe supported and maybe still support rather, ruined your country and ruined the future that you thought you had. Thousands of businesses have closed down. Families are hungry. Companies are struggling to stay afloat. Many have shut down. Thousands have died in the hands of terrorists. Of course, we still have 300 currently in captivity. Your currency is the weakest it has ever been. Your economy is in shambles. Your police force is still rated among the worst in the world. Your parents can't afford their medication in old age. All your friends, think of all of them, are selling off everything they have so that they can leave Nigeria. Our reality is not Manchester United versus Liverpool, where you need your side to win so you can brag. This is your actual life that we're talking about here. And so if you at some point have some standard or metric with which you rate the performance of a government, and you decide to be truly honest with yourself and say your truth, it is your right to do so. And you are doing so because right after politics is played, then comes reality. Good morning.
And away from that Which Way Nigeria conversation, let's go straight to the front pages of the papers this morning. We're going to start off first by letting you know that you can be part of the conversation. Let's start off with Daily Independent. That's our very first paper this morning. And our very first paper, which happens to be Daily Independent, also has got that big header. Senate in rowdy session suspends Abdul Ningi for 3 months. That's what it says. That's what you have on the front page of the Daily Independent. It's all about the 3.7 trillion naira budget padding claim, and starting to bring about ripples of, you could say, effect. 500 million naira constituency project scandal rocks upper chamber. Some of you received. That's what we heard. Bamidele says there's a plot to impeach Akpabio before July. Embattled Ningi resigns as chairman of Northern Senators Forum. Ningi's suspension without inquiry amounts to cover up, says Huriwa. Akpabio leads senators to see Tinubu after Ningi's suspension. And this also brought about a lot of conversation that why? Why can the Senate be made to face its own situation or problems as regards, going ahead to see the president as well? Well, let's move on to another point in the paper there, another story. It says, pray for peace, stability of Nigeria. Tinubu urges Muslim faithfuls. That's on page 7. That's exactly what we have there on page 7. Page 7 as well says Atiku accuses Tinubu of sponsoring reports that he is exiting PDP. And that story, we didn't see that yesterday, but Atiku did come out, his camp did come out quickly to say, to debunk that rumor. Kidnapping, Afenifere calls for multi-level policing, stakeholders meeting, that's what they call for. And so many more stories. The Daily Independent, I must say, is loaded, fully loaded. But then again, we're going to focus on what really matters, as of course, Mr. Sheson joins me here live in the studio as we talk about this. Let's look at the Senate in rowdy session as it suspends Abdul Ningi for 3 months. That will be our very first story. But by the way, good morning. It feels good to see you join us here on Breakfast Central.
Good morning, Jonathan, and good morning to all our viewers across the globe. A very beautiful midweek Wednesday. Nice to be here.
It's beautiful, most important, especially looking at what played out yesterday. How beautiful can it get? How can it be more beautiful than what it was or it has been?
You see, when this kind of information is being circulated and you are reading through, you look at it and ask yourself, these are leaders that give so much commitment that the citizens should try, show understanding, and brace up because they are putting certain policies that will ease, let me use their word, ease the hardship that people are faced with. But I considered this when I read that, when I saw the way Ningi started, Senator Ningi, I consider it as one of the season film that we need to watch. You know, after Ningi, you really came in yesterday to like accuse everyone. And I'm expecting that before the end of this week, you should have one or other too. And you see this what plays out practically with our elite and our politicians when you are enjoying those things. The reason why the other man, Jubilee, is coming out is that it was just changed. He said as an high-ranking senator, if he's not even getting the 500 million, it's not that 75,000 that is entitled to him as constituency allowance, as claimed by the Senate leader, that the money that they're actually talking about is for senatorial, for constituency allowance. People like us have asked the question, what is the role of the legislator? They are to make laws. The executive are to execute projects. Why can't we inculcate this so-called constituency project that we hardly see? Because I remember budgets carry out an independent review of some of these constituency projects, and we are not seeing the viability of it. It's quite disheartening that you see a member of the House of Representatives, a senator, coming to say the pipe-borne water you and I can affordably construct for your community. It's what they're having as constituency project. And you see that work for 1 or 2 days. Everybody comes fetch the water, and that's just all.
It stops.
And you are calling that constituency project.
Or toilets.
Toilets. You know, rehabilitation of maybe a classroom that alumnus of so many schools are carrying out are what we are seeing exhibiting out as constituency project. And we've said it. If you must come out as legislator, can you have laws that will check the activities of the executive? Give them the project to handle to say, okay, so much is allocated to me for my constituency allowance. These are the projects I'm expecting you to execute for me, and I will follow it. And you can make laws if the man is not executing it to see how will punish him. But situation where we all know, Jonathan, you're a legislator, I'm an executive. And you know that if you give me the contract to handle, you will not get that excess that is supposed to come for you to live big and share to people. So definitely you look at every means to make sure that that project is actually being handled by you. And also we see it as an avenue to say, okay, our senator, our House of Rep, our leaders are working because they are the one doing it directly, not attributing the glory to the executive. These are problems that we are faced with. And it's quite disheartening. I don't know how they expect, and I love the way the Senate president said it. These citizens of the country, the citizen of the country, will no longer respect this house. And that's the truth.
Fact.
That's the truth. We are having
continuous epileptic power supply that has impacted so much on our productivity. Imagine 500 million in the hands of so many in that house. This can actually be pumped into the power sector, and we see the transmission arm and the distribution arm, revamping in such a way that we can see how our economy will grow. But most of the time, and it's part of what I've said it times with that number, that for me, I don't have problem that we don't have resources. The only thing we lack is that corruption has so much been endemic in the life of everyone that it's about what do I get from all this for my personal self and my family. And I don't care about the next person to me. So if you can have a system that checkmate those activities and you punish, there is no consequences for any offense that is being carried out. All these things that we are hearing, after a little while, the next thing you hear is that let the sleeping dog lie.
Yeah.
Have we heard anything further about 2 months after Better Edu case? Up till now, nothing is happening. We are still investigating. After a while, we have more compounding problems.
So it seems like Better Edu's case.
Better Edu case is just a child's play. Let's abandon that and face the major one that we have now, and that will be the major focus of discussion. Better Edu is one of the several we've had happening within. We are talking of insecurity. Are you aware students were kidnapped from schools? Over 200 were kidnapped. Same thing from Sokoto, over 50. We are talking of level of insecurity, and we are seeing our leaders just coming out, talking about how they are not getting the fair share, and that's why they are raising alarm that some animals are more equal, it's disheartening. And I just looked at it. So you go out and you say you want to borrow money. Some of the money that are being borrowed are actually being shared by very few without getting value. How I wish that we can have projects, if indeed this constituency allowance being collected are used for constituency projects that will impact on the common man. You need to work out like this on a normal day and see the number of people that will beg. You've seen instances where people are begging because day by day we keep retrenching. The arm that could support the productive arm is not there. Somebody was calling me yesterday and saying, do you know amount we spend on diesel on weekly basis? It's becoming unaffordable for the company, and the only area they need to do is to look at the staff. So you send those people out, they come begging, and when they cannot get anything from begging, they resort into criminality. Now attacking the very few that are actually possibly being privileged to have their business moving. And they become a threat, a menace to the society. I think it's addressing the right thing. If you are getting this one, can you use it for what those things are meant for? And that's why I will keep calling on the anti-graft agency. Can we keep monitoring activity in such a way that when people misappropriate our funds, they are actually punished? See, I tell every individual that cares to listen, people like us cannot jump out because this country is blessed. Everything needed to make this country great is there. The natural resources, we are well endowed. It's just very few that are tapping into it. And that's how our minister said the other mineral that we can diversify into are just in the hands of few. And they are cabal. There are cabals everywhere. So you can imagine if the cabal's activities can be checked, the enormosity of the funds that we'll see, parading.
Yeah.
You can imagine if power is working in this country. Do you know the number of artisans that has abandoned their work because they could not sustain the cost of alternative power supply and resulting into many jobs like riding bike, and you still run after them on the major road
and hound them down for
and them down for
to pay their taxes.
Have you actually fixed the thing? The creativity. It's not about you going to school. I keep telling the individual. Do you know there are some people that have not stepped the four wall of schools, but those inborn talent in them that they can enhance, build on, that will contribute to this economy is enormous. But you are out there. Yesterday someone was calling me, said the heat in their environment is killing. That on its own has health implication. No light. The weather is hot.
The mosquitoes are prying.
They are, because several. So you can imagine this that we are faced with. And that's why we are calling on our leaders. You are there to serve the people. Let them feel the impact of some of these things. And until we have anti-graft agency that works to checkmate the activity of
Let's take a call now. We do have Benga calling from Lagos. Benga, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Ooh, okay. All right. Benga, please do well to call us back if you can. Let's quickly look at another paper very quickly. Or still better, let's focus on the Daily Independent. There's a story that I want us to look at before I come back to this Nigeria, please. Let me flip that. Yeah, back to Daily Independent. Kidnapping, Afenifere calls for multi-level policing, stakeholders meeting, and this is what they are saying. And then Atiku accuses Tinubu of sponsoring reports that he is exiting PDP.
When it comes to that particular one, it's irrelevant as far as someone like me is concerned, because that will not bring bread and butter on the table of an average. If he wants to exit, he should exit. If the president is sponsoring it, that has no impact on what we are saying. Will that actually contribute to generating more power or transmitting more power to us? Jonathan, that's as far, maybe the paper just decide to just. Well, if he wants to exit, we've known him. He moved from one party to.
Let me take this call. The way you said it cracked me up. Like, oh God, I don't care. Good morning to you. Thanks for calling us. We have a caller, Benga. Benga, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you, Benga. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There is no smoke without fire. What that is, what the man is saying, they are seen past. All of them, they are all corrupt in the house. They are not representing anybody. They are representing themselves and their family. In the country where that CCC cannot fit, they are still 500 million. Now, that man wants to talk yesterday. They have to off the microphone by force. To keep his mouth shut. Nigeria, now God, we are praying to God to change the situation of Nigeria. These people, they are not representing us. They are just deceiving us. They are just deceiving us. They are not doing anything to represent anybody. They are just there for themselves.
All right, Benga, thanks for calling, okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. All right.
When the perception of an average citizen is like that, and that's why you see most of these leaders will find it difficult to come to the constituency they claim they are leading. They come around and they fortify themselves with security aids. In fact, the advanced team, you see like 2 e-logs in front, 3 behind. You see their own vehicle, bulletproofed at the middle. Coming to the area where you grew up and you claim to be your constituency. It's because of these issues that are happening. And like I said the other time, the news about Atiku is not new. If he's being sponsored, congratulations to him. But we've known the antecedent of him moving from one party to the other. That will not increase power generation. That will not curtail insecurity. That will not reduce the cost of rice. So if he wants to leave, fine. If he's being sponsored, fine. That is not it. Areas where I'm concerned about is how we are actually affecting education in the northern region, where it's becoming scary for people. I was thinking the last administration after the Chibok girls, there were so many measures that were put in place. How much have we followed through to see that those things are actually, implemented in such a way to mitigate what we're experiencing now? Jonathan, I put my arithmetic to test, and they said over 260 students were picked from that school. And I'm like, they used bike, no vehicle, from what we heard. And I'm like, if you have a biker, the maximum you can carry on a bike is 3, maybe 1 in front and 2 at the back, or let's say maximum of 4. But I'm saying averagely 3. So that means you need over 80, close to 90 bikes moving in that area without any form of, reprisal or attack on them. It's quite interesting. Where is our intelligent gathering that this will happen? Even when it had happened, does that mean there is no one in that locality that can actually prompt either the military or the police, where they will even force that thing down in such a way that they won't go away with them? So they will go away with it, and a few days later, we hear about few being released.
and no ransom was paid. It's quite worrisome. And we keep saying it that a secured environment is a prosperous nation. Because what will happen now is that every parent will tell them, you can't go to school, sit at home. And when you are not educated, when you are not well informed, you will definitely be misguided by the very few that have the knowledge of it. It's just like somebody coming to tell you that, if you see what is actually talking in the TV, it's one big mighty whatever. Say if you hold this, somebody that have not seen phone, they can tell you that this phone that you are holding, if you know the magic it can do, but because you are not, enlightened to have understanding of what it is, will you tell a young boy that is just 3 years old that knows how to operate the phone more than the father, that this is what is in the phone, or you want to use that to him, he tell you which phone are you using? You're using Android when I operate iPhone 15 at home. That is to tell you the level of what enlightenment and education can do.
Let's take this call. Tony from Lagos, thanks for calling. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my contribution is like the situation in Nigeria is laughable. What happened to the drones? The drones. I mean, is there anything of getting drones as to getting how they get into the schools, how to track them down? The Chibok girl situation, we ought to have gotten drones after all this trillions of naira being spent in the defense sector of Nigeria. What happened? I don't understand. Are we in the 16th century or 17th century? Are we not part of the world of 24th century? Very funny, my brother. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. He just asked a very vital question there. What happened to the drones? Just to enlighten Nigerians this morning, the federal government had earmarked sum of money, billions, running into billions of naira for the security apparatus in Nigeria, which during the previous administration, they also had gotten fighter helicopters and the likes. Where are they? There were also calls to use drones as well. And you do recall that the police had also purchased drones. And I do recall vividly that the Inspector General of Police and, of course, the other police officers, their rankings now fail me, they even tested it in front of the press and said, these are the new drones. Vital question the caller is asking. Where are the drones? And think about it. You also highlighted that 280 students, you couldn't have used Okada or bikes to have taken them into your location. So imagine if they were just being kidnapped. I mean, there was a horrid video we also saw online where some of the kidnappers had, maimed the mothers and so on, took the children. They were laughing and playing with them and taking them off on a bike. And if it took them about a distance, maybe it took them 15 minutes to get to where they're going to, and you dispatch the drones, it could have spotted them. You know what? I'd like to take your thoughts, but let's do this. The conversation continues. We'll have more papers to look at. Let's go for a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Breakfast Central. We're still talking the papers. And we do have, of course, our guest in-house analyst who's here with us as well. Let's go straight to the next paper. And we're going to do this. Let's look at this Nigeria. That's what we're going to. Don't forget you can call in and react to the stories. The biggest story is still at the front page here. 3.7 trillion naira budget saga. Senate slams Ningi with 3-month suspension. It goes on to say his allegations were wild and unsubstantiated. Embattled senator resigns as chairman of Northern Senators Forum after his colleagues abandoned him. Senate leader Ogbonmwan Bamidele says it was a failed plot. He called it a coup. Yeah, I do recall. He said that. It's a coup plot, and not just a failed plot. A coup plot against Akpabio. Okay. 697 illegal pipes still connected in Niger Delta region. NNPCL says 697 illegal pipes still connected. What does that mean? So it means there's more work to be done. I believe so. Tinubu approves HOS 10 perm sex for FCT. Let's quickly wrap this up and allow you to react to either of the stories. Edo, Shaibu wasn't served impeachment notice, says aide. So what did we hear? Did we hear something different? It seems like sometimes when you get the news and it comes from the source itself, you need to call the source, which we do as a News Central. And if you get that, you might also want to wait. And I'll say this categorically clear, because myself and Olive here on Monday were celebrating the launch of the student loan. And now we're hearing that it seems like it's going to be suspended.
It seems like they say it's suspended indefinitely.
And we said it here. I'm going to look for that clip and ensure I play it tomorrow, where Olive and myself, Olive said, let's not celebrate here. That you know that when you hear something from this administration, don't go celebrating. Wait until it is done. And even when it is done, watch until it is. So there are a lot of. Anyway, let me allow you. It's your turn. So react to either of the stories that we saw.
Johnson, I think I want to pick on the NNPCL
697
illegal refi. Yesterday, I was reacting to one of their requests that they are inviting EFCC to assist them on some of these illegal acts. And I asked myself, this sector we're talking about is a specialized field. What do you want an EFCC to come there do? It's not about we talking of misappropriation of funds. These are illegal activity that even the military that are meant to actually, have a surveillance over that area are struggling to nip at the bud. And we are reading this morning. I'm expecting the NNPCL GMD to come and counter this report that is false. Because if you have 697
697
of our source of revenue, that's a major, in fact, the main source of revenue, still being illegally mined out or taken out by the cabal. Because the business we're talking about are not for the small boys. Most of the time, when you hear that a ship is being bombed, these things are being done, and the boys are actually being picked up, those are errand boys. They cannot even invest in that particular thing. They only give the process.
What stops? So
you've identified the place.
Yeah.
And we are not asking people to mobilize to the area to make sure that those things are taken off. So what are we saying? What are we? You are just passing information to us of your failures, because those things were not actually the last one that was uncovered that I analyzed on where the head of military was saying that looking at the fifth dog to get to that particular thing was over 40 something. That would not be done by a mere digger, by an abuki that is trying to deal well and be using his equipment to do that. It must be a sophisticated equipment that will go down that area and will not be done a day. That would not be carried out a day, not even a week, not a month. And that was actually done for so long, perfected the art, and they were started siphoning those things before you uncovered it. See, each time you wake up and you hear all those things, you feel, saddened. And that's why we are like, this country is... The only thing I am advocating for, maybe because it's my field, is let's have a system that works, that exposes some of this failure. By now, we should be hearing of the GMD, NNPCL, being out of the game. If under your watch, 697 illegal, pipe along the major source of income. So you can imagine if they are having, I don't know the quantity to say, even if it is 100 liters a day, I'm just using hypothetically, multiply by 697. Do you know the amount that we are actually losing? And we have said it that we are not even meeting the OPEC, your request from us as a nation, of which we know that if all these areas are closed up, we have more than enough that we can sell, earn the income, and even refine locally
for the benefit of. So you look at every arm. We've spoken about power. We've spoken about the oil and gas. We've spoken about security, Senate. So every area, the only thing you need is to have a system that checkmate this, and anyone found, found culpable of this act is punished, and that will serve as deterrent to others. But all this story, we keep saying it. We like discussing it. We like analyzing it. But I can tell you, it will not see the date of the life. If, as a matter of fact, a lot of people that have actually moved and siphoned their money are actually coming to use it against us. Move on the road. You see the number of sirens. Can you afford to have orderlies following you up and down? A lot of them will. The cost of the vehicle, the cost of fueling that vehicle, the cost of paying the security personnel that will follow them is more than enough to secure the community where this kidnapping is actually acting. They want to go to their constituency. They are not safe. I'm not saying, I am saying it. I have not. We have a lot of them intimidating us in Lagos. You are on the road. They are chasing you off the road. I keep referring that the period of Governor Fashola in Lagos was a memorable one where the governor did not use siren. Why do you have to use it? Why do you have to chase us off the road? I know I have an appointment here for 8. I left my house as early as to 7 to catch up with my appointment. And I need not to chase anyone off the road. Why would somebody come out of Lagos and be blowing siren all because he's a politician? I had a very funny experience. I had to chase one, and the police was warning me, "We'll gun you down." This guy was just driving on his own, and you need to see the reckless driving of one of the vehicle of that so-called politician. And they did it, and they were just moving their way, and they almost caused an accident on that act. How can you be using the so-called funds that it is our taxpayers' fund that is used to all this constituency allowance, all those things that are meant to be used for us, you are using it to oppress us again. It's really uncalled for. And I've actually said, why the use of siren by the politicians? Why?
So many death in this discussion, but time will fail us. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Shizo, for being here. We look forward to have you again so we can really take time to hopefully, I'm sure, we'll get an update on what's happening as the Senate is
I'm sure by the time we'll be meeting next week, we'll see that the story has been closed and because they are meeting with the president today.
Yes.
And that's the number one person to see what's going on in your constituency, that you can't take charge of all this. And the parties will definitely be invited, talk to, and then don't be surprised, like Olive said the other time. We hear about his suspension. It might be recalled, and he will not do that 3 months after.
Like they said, that if he writes a letter and apologizes, he will be recalled. That's the
even if he doesn't write the letter and you see if he plays more video. This is a season film, and he said, "Well, I'm on suspension, so I'm no longer under you for now. I have another video I'm going to play." If they see that the video is going to play next, it's heavy.
They say, "Come."
They say you don't need to. You don't need to write letter. Why are you doing like this now? Oh boy, why? And that's where we found ourselves as a nation. But I just pray that we'll be liberated.
Thank you so much. We'll go for a quick break. We'll take a look at that same story, and of course, we do have a guest joining us. Stay with us. Is the Nigerian Senate falling apart? That's what everyone seems to be asking. Plus, Nigerians are indeed surprised. For many, it's not a case of being surprised. It seems to be the norm. While for others, it's a case of someone being shortchanged and therefore has come to the fore to say, I am going to speak. But you see, all these forms the conversation that we've been having from early hours of today up until now. Kingsley Chime, a legal practitioner and political analyst, joins me now as we touch on this current situation. Thank you so much for being here, Kingsley.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chime, let's go straight to what's been going on right there and what we saw yesterday, the drama that played out, plus the reactions that this has been getting. First off, how will this impact, especially on the Senate, and then, of course, on Nigerians, looking at it from a legal point of view?
Thank you so much once more for having me. The issue of budget tampering or budget padding has always been a recurrent decimal in Nigerian politics. Just a few years ago, I think in 2016, the same issue of allegation of over 400 billion was padded in the budget. At the end of the day, nothing came out of it. And in this instance, a serving senator has alleged that about 3 trillion naira was surreptitiously, included in the budget that was presented and passed by the Senate. So, but these issues are something that is very, very serious. Any reasonable person should take serious. But we are here deliberating, arguing for back and forth, and then one would think that if a senator has alleged that over 3 trillion naira was padded in the budget, what is the proper thing to do in the circumstance? Ordinarily, the security agencies ought to have been invited to scrutinize and investigate the veracity and or otherwise of this allegation. But that has not been done. Otherwise, what we are seeing is that both the members of the Senate, are making counter accusations and accusing each other of whatever they want to make of it. But the point is that from the explanation of budget committee, they have tried to provide an alibi or a defense that what Mr. President proposed in the budget was about 27.5 trillion naira. And then they decided on their own, that is their own admission, they decided on their own to increase it to about 28.7 trillion naira. They have not explained to Nigerians on whose directive they are acting upon. If the executive that prepared the budget and made that proposal to the Senate, in their wisdom, has factored in all the indices and factors that will move Nigerian economy forward, and the senators decided on their own, like Father Christmas, to increase the budget that the executive has presented for their consideration. You can make of it whatever you want from this. That is the position of the senators as we speak. While the senator who raised this dust is insisting that a lot of things went underground. So, like I said, it will have a far-reaching implication, not just on the senators. Of course, they are alleging that their integrity is being undermined, but that is on the periphery. The question is about the transparency in government and how Nigerians are going to key in the development that this administration intends to move Nigeria forward. If from the budget of the the first budget that this government is being implemented is now being riddled with a lot of controversies and allegations. I think the proper thing is for security agencies to wade in and investigate this allegation.
All right, Mr. Chime, because of our want of time, I just need you to quickly do this for us. Where do you see this story going? Where do you see it? Where would it go to? Where would it lead to? What's the focus? Just briefly, let us know.
The simple truth is that it will lead to nowhere. It's going to lead to nowhere. Like I said in my introductory speech, this is not the first time. And at the end of the day, the whole thing will die down. I will move on like nothing happens. Nigerians will have short attention span. Nobody's going to ask questions about it. From this suspension, the man may be recalled, and life moves on. Or they will have a justification for the tinkering or padding of the budget. And life moves on. That is the kind of politics we operate. That's the kind of system we find ourselves. So, but we are hopeful that this government will have the willpower to investigate this allegation, if at all they are not culpable or complicit in it.
All right. We did see Senator Okoyemi Bamidele from Ekiti Central Senatorial District. He also happens to be the Senate Majority Leader. He did say during the entire conversation that there are a group of persons that want to remove, just to make it quite simpler, the current sitting Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio. Let's take a look at this, and I'd like your reaction to this as well.
Distinguished Senator Abdul Ningi, who I respect so well, planned to do or set out to do was tantamount to a civilian coup.
All right. So he called it civilian coup, what we're seeing. In other words, what Senator Ningi and the others are playing. He tagged it as a civilian coup, which is what we saw. What's your take on that?
I don't think that is correct. These are just diversionary issues. Politics, there's always a political angle to every issue. Anybody can decide to take advantage of the situation. But this is not about who is trying to do civilian coup. These are parliamentarians. These are one of their key functions or responsibilities for them to scrutinize the budget and ensure that the implementation is followed through. So if someone has raised such allegation, it must and should be investigated. So whatever is the internal political rumbling going on within the parliamentarian seat, that is for them to deal with. But we are concerned about the sanctity and transparency of governance, particularly with respect to the budgetary provisions made that have been passed recently by the president. That should be the focus, and not necessarily who is trying to remove who and who is trying to take over whose position. For me, that is beside the point.
All right. There was also this conversation about 500 million being shared, being shared amongst a few, and Senator Jarigbe did make that statement, said he didn't get, it didn't come to him. From your own perspective, I'd like you to put on your political hat here as an analyst, as a political analyst. What do you make of that statement in a house that is made up of representatives from different political parties, the NNPP, the Labour Party, the PDP, and so on? But let's take a listen to what he said, and then I'd like your reaction to my question.
If we want to go into those issues, all of us are called people. Some senators here, so-called senior senators, got 500 million each. I am a ranking senator, I didn't get. Did I go to the press? Most of you got. And yes, if we want to go into those issues, excuse me, if we want to go into those issues, yes. So I think that Senator Ningi,
I'm seeing about again. I know
that conversation, his microphone went off, reminiscent of your mic. Your thoughts on that very quickly as we wrap up.
Yes, okay, let me take the last comment, the reminiscence of your mic. Of course, the microphone didn't go off intentionally. Somebody must have tinkered with it somehow because of the revelations, witty revelations the man was making. And that is the point. The truth is that the devil is in the details. There are a whole lot of things going on which is not in the public domain and which may never be in the public domain. Somebody stood up in the house to accuse. In fact, it's a direct indictment for all the members seated there that some of them collected 500 billion or 500 million, whatever. The purpose for which that money was given was not clarified, But that shows you the kind of politics, we run in Nigeria. Because we could not get in details what the man was trying to say because it was interrupted at some point. I won't be able to speak, directly on what may have necessitated that. But the point is that it boils down to, the kind of leadership, the kind of leaders we elect, to represent us at different levels. If the budget we are dealing with, and some people have started receiving, I don't know whether it is that appreciation for a job well done, or for them to continue. Is it like constituency project that they shared?
Okay.
When the budget was passed.
All right.
So this is not in the public domain. The devil remains in the
All right. Kingsley Chime, legal practitioner and political analyst, thank you for joining us. We look forward to have you again as we understand that there will be an unfolding drama or story after this, since they're meeting with the president, number one citizen of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so for us here, that does it on Breakfast Central. It's a whole lot of drama, but I'm sure that the conversation goes even deeper. You can count on us to bring to you the latest stories here in our subsequent programming and, of course, news bulletin. It's been a fantastic show. Osarogie Ogbonmwan is around the building. I'm here as well, Joe Hanson. That's my name. I look forward to be with you again tomorrow morning. Until then, stay with us. More coming your way. Good morning.